Hey guys, in our last video, we talked about adding a bit of security to our internet browsing by adding DNSSEC to our Pi-hole and AdGuard configurations. In this video, we're going to continue talking about security, but we're going to bring things a bit closer to our actual home labs, and we're going to talk about doing security audits on the Docker containers that we're thinking about deploying in our home labs by using a solution called Trivy. But first, I want to talk about today's video partner, Mint Mobile. If you've ever thought, why the heck is my wireless bill so high? Then let me tell you about Mint Mobile, who I'm partnering with for today's video. Now, you might already know about Mint Mobile if you've seen those funny ads from Ryan Reynolds, who is also an owner, but let me quickly tell you how awesome their service is. Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for as low as $15 a month, and you don't have to sacrifice any coverage, speed, or data. Now, they're built on the nation's largest 5G network, and they keep their costs low because they sell directly to you online, thus cutting out retail stores and salespeople. So why should you pay more than you have to for access to the same network? Be sure to click the link in the video description if you're interested in the best value in wireless. All Mint Mobile plans include unlimited nationwide talk, text, plus lightning fast 5G and free mobile hotspots. Now, I love that Mint reached out to partner with me on this video because I actually switched to Mint a couple of years ago. Honestly, partially in part because of Ryan Reynolds and his marketing, but also because I realized that I could get great coverage in my area for a fraction of what I was spending with my previous provider. Switching to Mint is super easy thanks to their digital eSIM cards, which you can sign up and activate immediately right through your phone. Now, if your phone isn't eSIM compatible, Mint will ship you a new SIM card for free, and Mint has great customer service if you ever need help. It only takes about 15 minutes to pay as low as $15 a month for your phone plan, and it really is just that simple. Be sure to use my link, trymintmobile.com/dbtech, to get started, or click the link in the video description. It really does help out my channel. And if you've already made the switch to Mint, please let me know what you think in the comment section down below. So, a couple of things before we continue talking about Trivy. First, I want to thank the viewer Titan King Media for bringing Trivy to my attention. I probably wouldn't have even known about it without their comment. Second, this video is in no way meant to throw shade at any developers. This video is just meant to show you how you can use Trivy to look at known vulnerabilities of the Docker containers that you're thinking about deploying on your system. So just a quick little snippet here from Trivy's GitHub. Trivy is a comprehensive and versatile security scanner. Trivy has scanners that look for security issues and targets where it can find those issues. Targets can scan container images, file systems, Git repositories, virtual machine images, Kubernetes, AWS, and a few other things, I'm sure. But with that said, we're just going to be taking a look at scanning Docker containers in this video, but Aqua Security, who is the developer of this application, has a great resource of information available to learn how to scan other things. Trivy also supports most popular programming languages, operating systems, and platforms. And for a complete list, be sure to see the scanning coverage page in their docs. And as per usual, I will have links to everything in the description down below. Now, there are a couple of different ways that we could go about using Trivy, and one of those methods involves setting up a VM or a Proxmox container or something similar, and installing Trivy basically as a bare metal application. The other method, of course, is more in line with what we do here on the channel, and that's running Trivy as a Docker container. I like the Docker method because, of course, like I said, that's what we do on the channel, but also because it's super quick and simple to check a container using this method. Now, as we're going to see, Trivy does recommend setting up a cache for the Trivy Docker container to store bits of information, so that will be part of the Docker CLI command, and I'll be sure to show that as we're digging through some containers. Now, speaking of containers, in this video, we're just going to be taking a look at 4 different containers from 4 different developers, so we can see what we can find out about those containers' vulnerabilities. So with that introduction out of the way, let's jump over to my desktop and take a look at how to use Trivy to scan some Docker containers. Okay, so here we are on my desktop, and we can see that I've got 4 different tabs open in my browser. The first one we've got here is Linux servers version of Snipe It. I like Linux server stuff. I've been using it basically since the beginning of this channel, and I want to kind of show what their containers look like from a vulnerability perspective. Of course, this is just one example, so that needs to be taken into consideration here. And then the other 3 containers are containers that we've looked at recently here on the channel. The next one we've got is Link Warden. This is actually where this comment originated as far as finding out about Trivy. So we're going to take a look at it. We've also got Pi-hole, which is the official version of Pi-hole. Of course, let's take a look at that. And then AdGuard. Both Pi-hole and AdGuard are videos or topics that we've covered in a very recent video. So those are the 4 containers we're going to look at. Again, Snipe It, Link Warden, Pi-hole, and AdGuard. Now, these are all from different developers. I think that's important to note. So with that said, let's take a look at the command that we're going to need to run in order to use Trivy to look for vulnerabilities in each of these different containers. Okay, so here we are. We're on Trivy's docs. This is over at aquasecurity.github.io/Trivy with the version number and some other information here. That part's kind of irrelevant because, again, this is all going to be linked in the video description. So here I am on the installation link right there. And again, there are several different ways that you can install this, whether it's, using RHEL or CentOS or Debian and Ubuntu, Homebrew, Mac ports, Nix, NixOS, install from a GitHub repository. And of course, we want to come down to using a container. And it says right here, pull Trivy image, and it's Docker pull with aquasec Trivy, and then the version number here. And it's advisable to mount a consistent cache directory on the host into the Trivy container, which we had talked about briefly during the introduction of this video. And it says, for scanning container images with Trivy, mount docker.sock from the host to the Trivy container. And that's what we're seeing right here in this Docker run. The volume is the Docker socket. Again, that's just so that we can communicate with the core of everything to make sure that our system can handle the Docker stuff that we're about to throw at it. And then, of course, next, our next little volume here, which is this right here, this -v. Again, that's another volume. And this is just where we're going to store our cache. Of course, you'll see when I run this, I've got a specific place that I put this. You can store your cache wherever. That's just where I'm just gonna store mine in a different location than this. Next, we've got the image that we're actually going to run, which in this case, again, is aquasec/Trivy, and then version 0.46.0. And then we're going to run a command after this saying scan the image of Python 3.4 Alpine. So basically, that's the command that we're going to run to have it go out and look for a specific image. And I'll show some differences, and I'll explain why I'm going to show that. But basically, you don't have to download any of these images to your system before you actually run this command. So let's just actually jump into running some of these commands so that you can see how easy it is to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize all of this. This doesn't really matter for what I'm going to do here. I'm going to minimize that. I'm actually going to make this full screen, and I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. So basically, we've got, like I said, 4 different commands that we're going to take a look at. And the first Docker container that we're going to take a look at is Linux servers Snipe It. So I'm going to run this command. Again, Docker run. Our first volume is the Docker socket. Our second volume is for our cache, and I've got this stored in home/docker/Trivy/caches. You can change that home Docker Trivy caches to whatever you want it to be. Just don't change anything after the colon or anything after it for the inside of the container to do its thing appropriately. Next, again, we've got our Docker image of aquasec/Trivy, and our image is Linux server/Snipe It's latest. That's the one that we're going to scan. So I'm going to go to the end of that line, and I'm just going to hit enter. And basically, at this point, it's going to update the database. It's going to make sure all of the repositories can be contacted. And here we go. That's how quickly it ran this. Now, that's going to be dependent on the image and the size of the image and all kinds of other things. But basically, here we can see, if your scanner, well, let's scroll back up, right? So it updated the database. It checked the database repository. It's downloading the database. And here it's making sure that everything is there. Vulnerability scanning is enabled. Secret scanning is enabled. If your scanning is slow, please try -- scanners vulnerability to disable secret scanning. There's more information for speeding up faster secret detection. We've detected our operating system. We've detected Alpine because that's the OS vulnerabilities. The number of language-specific files is 1, and detecting composer vulnerabilities. Now, here we've got our results down here below that, and it says Linux server Snipe It latest, Alpine version 3.17.5, known 3, unknown 0, low 0, medium 3, high 0, critical 0. And then below that, it tells us what each of the different vulnerabilities are. So our vulnerability is CVE 2023-5363. The severity is medium. The status is fixed, so that's awesome. They've got the installed version, they've got the fixed version, and it gives an information as to why it was a vulnerability, with more information if you want to know more about that particular thing. And below that, again, we've got the library, the vulnerability, the severity, the status, the install version, the fixed version, whatever. And here, we can see that there are 3 listed under high as far as known vulnerabilities. And again, they're all fixed. So that's awesome. But it also gives more information about each of those different vulnerabilities. So if you wanted to do more research, you could absolutely do that based on the information we have here. And that's it, right? That's the bottom of the screen right there, which tells us that at least in this particular Docker container, all of the vulnerabilities that were known in this particular Docker image have been fixed. So in theory, this application is perfectly acceptable to run, and there are no known CVE vulnerabilities that might compromise your system. So well done on Linux Server IO. I wouldn't expect anything less from them. They've got a great team of developers and security professionals, all sorts of people who are constantly working on each of these Docker containers to make sure that they're safe and cross-compatible with ARM and x86 and x64 and that sort of thing. So again, taking a look at this, I'm super stoked to see how clean this particular image is. So with that said, let's jump back over to my desktop and take a look at our next image. So here we are. Let's go ahead and clear my screen with Control L, and let's run our next command, which is going to be the same command really, with the same cache, the same Docker socket, the same all of that, until we get down here into the new link. Now before, you'll remember it was only, like Linux Server IO /snipe it, and then latest. But here we're saying, no, go to the GitHub container repository to find this link warden Docker container, right? So we can actually put in the full URL of that rather than just relying on hub.docker.com for this. So again, we're gonna go ahead, go to the end of the line and hit enter. Again, it's gonna go through its little process of setting everything up. Now, I've already scanned this one, that's why it happened so fast, but let's scroll back up, because we're gonna see that there's a lot going on here. Let me just grab this and just keep scrolling up. Now, again, oops, where was it? It was right there. This is where our link warden starts. And here we can see that we've got a total of 298 possible vulnerabilities. 0 of those are unknown, low, or 156 of them are low, 81 are medium, and 53 are high, and 8 are critical. Now, I say that, and I want to go back to what I said earlier in the introduction to this video. This video is in no way meant to be disparaging or to crap on anybody about their containers. I want to show kind of all of the different possibilities of what you might see. I say all of the different possibilities, but I want to show that you might run into a situation where there are none, or you might run into a situation where there are a bunch. This is one of those cases, but I'm going to be honest, this isn't the only one, and you might actually be surprised by that. So let's just kind of jump back over to my desktop here, and let's take a look. We can see the vulnerability, the library, the vulnerability, the severity, the status, all of this is the same as what we saw before. But here we're seeing some of these are affected, some of these are will not fix. Again, we've got affected, we've got fixed right here, which I'm happy to see. Will not fix, affected, scrolling down, fixed, deferred, affected, fixed, deferred, affected. And all of that kind of runs down all the way through this. But if you want to know more about each of these different vulnerabilities, again, there is a link over here on the right side of the page showing what that particular vulnerability is. Now, again, this particular container does have quite a few vulnerabilities in it. So you might be cautious about running something that has this many, will not fix or deferred fixed or whatever kind of vulnerabilities in it. That might be something to take into consideration when deploying an application. Now, that said, there are some vulnerabilities, some things that might pop up in these tests that may not be, deal breakers. It might be, something that's deferred or something that isn't even really going to affect whatever it is you're doing. So it's always important to look at the vulnerabilities that are in these to find out whether or not this actually affects you and whether or not it actually makes sense to have that vulnerability be the deciding factor as to whether or not you will or will not deploy a specific container. So again, with taking a look at link warden, just jump back over here. There's a lot going on here. So I would hope that the developer would take the time to look through the results, run the scan for themselves, and see if there's anything that they can do to make this kind of a less lengthy list of vulnerabilities, whether it's affected or fixed, or won't be fixed or fixed deferred. I hope that they will go through and take a look through this and maybe make some changes to the way their application runs. So again, this one I'm still scrolling. There's a lot going on here, and again, all kinds of different statuses here, but let's scroll down to the bottom. And in fact, here's a different one for Node. So as I mentioned, this container, as we saw anyway, this container has several different vulnerabilities listed. And this is a small team of individuals who are building and maintaining this application. And I think it's also why it's important to, when you find an application that you like, if at all possible, support that developer, because there's a lot going on behind the scenes to make sure that these containers are safe. Now, again, this is a small team of developers who are just kind of doing this as a little side project to bring an application to the community. With that said, let's take a look at something like Pi-hole that is a much more well-known application that lots and lots of people are using. So let's jump back over to my desktop and let's go ahead and clear my screen here again so that we're back to that. And let's take a look at our Pi-hole thing here. So again, Docker run, our Docker socket, we've got our cache volume, we've got our aquasec Trivy, and then the image that we're going to take a look at is the official Pi-hole latest version of that. Again, go to the end and hit enter. Going to give this a second. And this is Pi-hole, which honestly surprised me a lot. This is a very popular Docker container that lots and lots of people are running. And as I'm scrolling up, here we go. So here's the top of our Pi-hole here. And it says that we've got 348 low, 34 medium, 48 high, and 14 critical vulnerabilities in the official latest version of Pi-hole. Again, that shocked me. I was genuinely shocked when this report came up showing that there are 444 vulnerabilities in Pi-hole. That blew me away. So let's actually jump back over here and take a look. Right, so we've got apt, has a low, it's affected, bash, bind 9, this is all bind 9, this is DNS stuff, will not fix. The bin utilities, low, affected, and if we scroll down, here are all of the different CVE vulnerabilities that were found to be part of just this library. And of course, all of the different links over here to find out more about those particular vulnerabilities. And as we scroll down, we get into bin utilities common. Again, lots and lots of these CVEs. And again, a lot of links to know more about them. We're scrolling down, again, bin utilities x86-64 Linux. Again, lots more CVE vulnerabilities. We've got BSD utilities. We've got core utilities will not fix, affected will not fix, affected under curl. DNS utilities will not fix. So there are a ton of these vulnerabilities in what I would call a high profile or a well-known Docker container. And that, I can't say that enough. It really blew me away to see all of these affected, deferred, fix, will not fix in a container like this. It's something to be aware of when you deploy a container like this. And I don't want to try to talk down to anybody about saying, well, you need to scan your containers, because this is very new to me as well. This is something that I've only run into, again, because of a comment in a video, and I love you guys for leaving these comments. So I think we kind of get the idea that there are a bunch of vulnerabilities in Pi-hole's latest official version of their Docker container. And again, not trying to crap on anybody, just trying to show what kind of things you might expect to see when you run a scan using Trivy on any number of different containers. So let's take a look at one more. Because we took a look at Pi-hole, let's also take a look at AdGuard. So I'm going to go ahead and clear my screen one more time, and I'm going to go ahead and paste this in. Again, all of this is the same until we get into AdGuard, Home's latest version from AdGuard. So let's do that. I'm going to give this a second. And there it is. That's the only one. It's the libcrypto libSSL3 vulnerability, shows this one CVE. Severity, medium. Status, fixed. Install version, fixed version. Incorrect cipher key and IV length processing. It's probably 4 length, I don't know. But not only was there an issue, it was already fixed. And I absolutely love seeing such a short report on such a great product. So I've actually used both Pi-hole and AdGuard. I started with Pi-hole and it did a great job, but then I decided to take a look at AdGuard Home. I guess I should clarify that. And I liked the aesthetic. I liked the interface better of AdGuard than I did Pi-hole. So I'm glad that I switched for that reason. But now that I'm seeing that it appears that AdGuard definitely has fewer vulnerabilities in it, that actually makes me feel even better about my decision to switch to AdGuard over Pi-hole. Now, again, just by running this simple Docker command and tagging on whichever Docker image you want to take a look at, you can quickly and easily take a look at the different vulnerabilities that any given Docker container might have. And of course, with all of the related information that Trivy has attached in this human readable layout, I'm super stoked to be able to tell you guys about it. And I hope that you guys will take a look at this for yourself and take kind of an audit of your system to find out just how vulnerable your system might be. If you do, definitely let me know kind of what your overall thoughts are on what your scan results told me. Let me know all of that in the comment section down below. I'd also be super stoked to have you again go check out today's video partner, which again is Mint Mobile. If you haven't checked them out already, you should. And if you have, let me know about that in the comment section down below. But I think with all of that said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I do want to thank you guys for spending a few minutes of your day with me today, and I'll talk to you in the next video.